Hey, thanks for joining us for the 7500 to whole cast. I'm Jack Grimsey, as always, alongside Robert Lintott, and today Steve Green from Aston Villa Review is joining us to provide I guess really another voice to our discussion of what's wrong with Villa. So, how's it going, Steve?
I'm okay, thank you. How are you?
Great. Yeah, thanks for joining us. And Robert, how are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. I'm glad we have someone else to kvetch and complain with us today.
Yeah, definitely. I think probably feel how a lot of Villa fans feel, just kind of really dissatisfied with the state of the club, but not really. There's nothing really we can do about it.
I mean, what could we do? There's a lot of people right now, of course, doing the "don't go to Villa Park." You're just giving them your money, and
Well, we already don't do that for one reason or another.
yeah, it's really tough for us to get there. It's a hell of a commute from Washington D.C. or from Oklahoma or
Yeah,
Nebraska, not Oklahoma. Sorry.
yeah. So we're not there every week, but I mean, a lot of people calling for Lambert's head though. What do you think about that, Steve?
Well, it's completely justified, isn't it? The way we've been playing this season. I mean, you think about how we played during his first season and our complaints during that whole period. I mean, I'd sort of kill for that sort of football now. And we've just got worse and worse as these 3 seasons have gone by. And okay, we had a good start this year, but I mean, I don't really buy the whole like tough run now. I mean, looking back on it, we've watched other clubs who I think we've got a similar squad too. Take these teams to the wire and get half decent results against them. And okay, it kind of sucked that we had them, 4 in a row or whatever. But now that we're sort of out of that, it's not improved. And I don't know. I'm fast on the fast track to apathy at the moment with Aston Villa.
Yeah,
It's kind of funny. I think coming into the stretch, we said, well, there's no way we lose all of them, and we beat Liverpool, who apparently they're not any good anyways, and then we did lose all the rest of them.
that Liverpool loss saved us, or that Liverpool win saved us from losing this entire stretch. But I agree with what you're saying, Steve. I mean, we all talked about the fact that this was a terrible stretch. It was a tough stretch. But the fact that Villa played exactly the same or possibly worse against QPR and Tottenham than they did against the first teams in this little streak uh, gives lie to the fact that it was just the schedule. This team is playing atrociously right now. And, they could have played, Birmingham City at this point and still looked probably pretty terrible.
Yeah, I mean, you sort of think back to the start of the season now, and you think, did we actually play that well? I mean, we were rather economical with all of our possession and our shots on target, but sometimes you get a little bit lucky in football, and I'm starting to think that that's all that happened.
I mean, the way that the teams looked the past six matches, I guess I think that's definitely possible. I mean, look at the two upcoming fixtures, West Ham and Southampton. They've both been playing really good football. So, I mean, Villa took the game to QPR, I think, the first half, and then got hit for a goal against a run of play and really fell apart.
Yeah, to be fair, we were the better side against QPR, but
Oh yeah, but I mean, getting only completing 7 out of 30 crosses, I thought that was tough. But yeah, Villa definitely were the better side.
well, there's no mistaking it was two poor teams battling it out. QPR just happened to create 2 chances and took them when they came along, which is more than can be said for us. Definitely. And we just end up looking a bit silly, I think.
I felt so badly for all of England in that QPR match. A long day, a long Monday at work. Want to come home, have a pint, relax, watch the football, and you get QPR and Aston Villa on your screen.
Well, you get what you pay for these days, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. It was, and that QPR match, though, you guys are right. We were the better team, but it says a lot that the moment that QPR scored, Villa just sort of ended up crumbling. Um,
Slightly right before the moment that QPR scored when Kieran Clark was nowhere to be found, but yeah.
is Kieran Clark anywhere to be found ever?
I
You
mean,
could start a children's book with that one, couldn't you?
I like that idea. I think that may be the 7500 to Holt Christmas book there.
I don't think Nathan Baker's been entirely bad as far as he could have been. He hasn't been great, obviously, but
Heading the winning goal in against Tottenham may say otherwise.
you would rather have had him not jump and it would have went up and down and in?
No, I understand. I kind of feel really badly for Nathan Baker there because I saw a lot of people on Twitter and elsewhere just jump on the poor guy. And you're right. I mean, what else could he have done? He did what he was supposed to. He jumped. He tried to head it up. It just so happened that he added more spin on the ball and put it perfectly.
Yeah, I guess he's exactly as unlucky as Harry Kane is lucky.
That seems pretty fitting.
I mean, Harry Kane came on and he almost scored right after he came on, but I don't know. He wasn't the next coming, I guess.
I mean, we got a goal in that match.
Maybe for Spurs fans, they just are so sick of Soldado and Adebayor, and that's fair.
But we got a goal, so that was nice. We broke that streak, 545 minutes. Steve, I said numerous times, I did the research from last year, that it was the longest streak since pre-2010. Do you have any recollection of a longer streak?
Honestly, I don't. And I don't know if that's just selective memory or the state of my memory, but no, I don't.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I refuse to go further back into the archives because it's depressing.
There's no way. Like, at least it will be farther back than at least probably 06 or something, because we were good then.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a team
no way
that
it could have happened. That's such a horrible drought.
And yet, could you guys see that sort of a drought happening again this year?
Yeah.
I can't even think of a reason why it's not going to happen again.
They scored in the 16th minute. So 530 minutes from now, they will.
We're well on our way, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. We've already started. Not 530. I would have to do the math, but we're well on our way to that secondary streak. They didn't look like scoring in the second half of the match too much.
I don't know, but doesn't James Collins play for West Ham? I don't know if we'll win. We've got to score at least one.
Yeah, I mean it would certainly help. That's the only way you're going to get 3 points. So I know that you rather mercifully didn't get to watch the entire match, Steve, but you said you got to see the Benteke red card, and I know that Jack and I were just pissed off and furious about that on Sunday. What are your guys' thoughts on that red card?
Well, you probably said everything that I'm going to say, but silly boy. You can't. It's not in the letter of the law, but you can't put your hands in someone's face because you will go, regardless of who it is. And there was a lot building up to that. And I mean, for the first half, Benteke actually really looked up for it, from what I've seen. I mean, I spent all of Sunday on trains, so I've only seen a few of the highlights. But he looked up for it. He looked really fired up, which is great to see. But I mean, after so long out, he's perhaps a little too fired up. And there was a lot of provocation in that incident, a lot of heavy provocation. And Chris actually brought up a very interesting point on Sunday when we were talking about it, is that throughout that whole series of events that led up to the red card, the referee saw that one incident and decided to punish that one incident. He completely ignored the Vertonghen challenge, Ryan Mason's shove in Benteke's back. And I think we can feel a little bit hard done by in that sense. But, we know what he did, he knows what he did, and he knows he can't get away with that. So can't really have too much sympathy.
Yeah. Jack, do you have new thoughts on it since Sunday?
Maybe not a new thought, but kind of an older thought is right when that happened, Lamela had shoved into Benteke, just really ran into him and bounced off because Lamela's tiny and Benteke's huge. I mean, it's always going to happen, but he came in recklessly, and then, yeah, like you were saying, the Vertonghen challenge, I didn't really think it was red, but then you can't give the Benteke, I don't know, if it's two debatable reds, you can't give either of them if you didn't give the first one. If he had sent Vertonghen off, then you're kind of looking for a reason to send someone off, and then there you go.
If you're going to punish somebody for retaliation, you need to punish the original offender, in my eyes, and that wasn't done. And that, I think, is what sticks in the craw a bit more than Benteke actually getting sent off.
Yeah, I would agree because, even though I wrote that thing that says it wasn't in the letter of the law, everyone is basically right. If you put your hand to someone's face, you're usually going to get the red. But you're right. It's the fact that there was that first provocating act, and it didn't yield anything. That was so freaking agonizing about that entire thing.
Oh yeah, one more thing is I don't even think the referee saw it. Because I think he got word from a different referee, which just makes it really annoying. Because then it's not the referee's decision.
Yeah.
A secondhand red card.
Yeah.
But the thing that I saw on Twitter that I thought was really funny is if Benteke had really forcefully shoved Ryan Mason right in the chest, like done something with far more force than what he actually did, he probably would have gotten a yellow.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, there is sort of a situational awareness thing there where, he just needs to know you don't bring your hand up and go like that.
Well, maybe Mason's face shouldn't have been at chest level of Benteke.
Yeah, grow more, damn it.
Yeah.
And then you had Mason putting his head into Benteke. Everything about that was pretty shambolic. But I hate to blame an entire match on the refereeing.
No, but I think at that point Villa were going to see it out for the win.
Or at least the draw.
Even if they saw it out for the draw, whatever. But, no, I don't know. Spurs, they had a couple moments where they looked threatening, but they weren't entirely a scary team.
The moments that they looked threatening usually came to Adebayor, and he usually Emil Heskey'd them. I think you were the one that texted me or tweeted me that, Jack, that Adebayor might be the new Heskey.
Yeah, maybe. I think the best moment was when he was just running straight for the touchline and a long ball came in over the top and just hit the back of his heel and shot back 20 yards the opposite way.
It was almost like a FIFA glitch, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but yeah, absolutely.
Benteke had another one when it was like the FIFA glitch when the ball missed the Spurs defender and it just hit him in the face, because he didn't even react.
Huh.
It's like where the ball just hits your player in the top of the head, you're hitting the buttons, and the guy doesn't move. He just hits his head and goes to a random spot.
So, since we probably don't want to spend too much time on Tottenham because that's depressing, how do Villa cope without Benteke, given the fact that they can't score for love nor money? How do they cope without Benteke against two pretty good teams coming up?
It might as well just go 4-6-0 because you don't have a good enough striker anyways. No, I mean, realistically, I think Vyman gets to play in the center again, which is good for him.
I think the main problem is not the lack of the goal scorer, but the lack of creation. The fact we've got no one that can run channels, no one that can find space, and no one that will sort of look to cut another defence open, and that's the most frustrating thing, because I think we do have the strikers, but they get used in the system where they're less effective.
They're forced to create, and they're not very good at it. I mean, we saw Gabby once he came on Sunday. He got some play right up the right line, just going for the end. I don't even know what to say. He had a great opportunity going for it, and
yeah, he just pulled up.
Yeah, holds up. Lets the defense reset. Lets them get,
To be fair, we should have scored off that chance still. Sissoko blasted it and just missed. That was still a good chance.
It was a good chance, and I thought he did, something with it. But I think Steve's right. There isn't a lot of creativity there to actually aid the strikers at all.
It was worse the QPR match, I think, when we kept seeing Benteke stuck with the ball out on the wings. Cross to Benteke if Benteke's out on the sideline.
Yeah. Can Andy and Gabby actually do it, or do we need to start seeing Darren Bent come in a little bit?
I don't know. At the start of the season, I felt sort of optimistic about Darren Bent. I thought he can chime in a couple of times, whether that be from the bench or from the start. But I think it just goes back to the same problem. he can't do what Benteke will do, which is how we're set up to play, and he won't hold the ball up for people coming in from wider positions. He's in and around the box, where I suppose you could argue that if we utilise Hutton and Sissoko properly and get crosses in, the chances of him getting on the end of something will be quite good. But I just look at him as a shell of his former self now. This is a guy who was once pretty much on the fast track to becoming England's first choice striker, and rightly so, because he was scoring for fun when he first joined us. You just can't see that now. I mean, last season at Fulham, they had a lot of problems themselves, but you'd think that would be the sort of place he could thrive, and he didn't.
It's almost, at this point, at least for me, impossible to imagine Benteke scoring a goal. It's easier for me in my mind's eye to see, that sitter that he missed against, he was playing with Fulham last year.
Yeah, I don't know if it's confidence or he's just not interested or what, but I can't see him having the same sort of contribution, and because of that, we might as well stick with Gabby and Andy.
Yeah.
I think so much of Lambert's 4-3-3 was predicated on Benteke, being able to bring the ball down, as well as Delph being able to just provide a ton of energy. I think Lambert needs to go with something else without them.
Yeah,
and maybe go 4-4-2 and put Nzogbia. I think Nzogbia was decently positive. Put him at right mid and put Grealish at left mid. And then you have Westwood and Cleverley, and I don't know. Then you can play Andy and Gabby just centrally, and they do have the ability to take it wide and to use the space out there, but no, you don't really want them crossing.
But can either of you at this point, as much as we may want to see him, can either of you actually see Paul Lambert starting Jack Grealish?
Not right now. I think his absence from the squad before Tottenham post signing contract is a clear sign that he's keeping him grounded, and to an extent, I think rightly so, because there's a lot of expectation on Jack Grealish at the moment, and a lot of it I think is unjustified because we haven't seen enough of him, and people are sort of saying, looking to him like he's the answer to our problems, and I think at this stage he's not. He's still learning a lot. I work with a guy who was a Notts County season ticket holder, and I was talking to him at the start of the season saying, well, what about Jack Grealish? Tell me about him. And he said, he's going to be huge, but right now he's just not there. And I think Villa fans think he is, and that's my worry of him, because we've had this prolific sort of production line, and so many of them have failed to live up to the required standard. Guys like Barry Bannon and even Mark Albrighton, guys who when they first came through were so exciting, and you thought, this is it. Gary Gardner even. Look what's happened to him now. And I just don't want that to happen to him, because I do think that he is going to be a really key player for us in the future, just not right now.
I think that's a really solid point there. And I'm guilty of it as anyone else. I'm one of those people clamoring for Grealish to start, and maybe I shouldn't be. But the question
because Villa have been so bad, you're like, what do you even do? You might as well throw youth team players out there, so at least they can get experience from the youth anyways.
But I guess my question is, if it isn't great to throw Grealish out there right now with Delph gone, and with the problems that you were mentioning, Steve, that the strikers are there, they just can't get the ball. Who is the creative, drivetrain on this team?
Probably Ashley Westwood. I think I really like Tom Cleverley, and people are talking about him as putting him in that sort of hole behind the strikers, and I don't think that's necessarily his strong point. He's a grafter, he's a worker, and I think every team needs one of those. But I think Westwood is the only one with the nous to sort of act as a bit of a deep line playmaker, I suppose. And he's got an intelligent football brain, and he will spot a pass. But whether everyone else is on the same wavelength, that's another issue entirely.
It'd be nice if Sanchez was a little more reliable, so that Westwood could go forward maybe and make some of those passes without having to probably be worried that Sanchez is going to pass the ball straight to the defender and they're going to score.
Yeah, it's 2 matches in a row now with Sanchez being directly responsible for a goal.
I'm reluctant to blame him all that much, though, because I think he's obviously still getting up to speed, and his
No, I
fitness is.
think he's improving a lot. I'm not
So
putting.
I'd blame Lambert for that because at that point, the incident against QPR, he shouldn't have been on the pitch then. He was exhausted, and I think that's when you should have got someone like Kieran Richardson on just to flood the midfield a bit more.
Kieran Richardson, I think he's been a decent player for Villa because he just is not going to go do anything horribly wrong. And he's going to be pretty consistent the whole game.
Mm.
Is there anyone that hasn't
be the match winner, but
is there anyone that hasn't been getting lots of time that you guys would like to see more regularly?
I suppose the main name there would be Joris Sakore, but if we're taking sort of what Paul Lambert said about him into context, then I'd sort of see why he's not been involved a lot. The injury he's had was a pretty serious one, and he's missed basically a year of football, and he's 21, 22 still, so we can't expect him to be thrust straight into the team as well, just in case anything happens. And I'd hate for that to happen, and for him to sort of take part in a massive blunder and then have everybody on his back all of a sudden. But you think that the Capital One Cup would have been great for him to reintegrate himself into the team and get some more match experience with us. But Leighton Orient proved too difficult for us this year, so there's that.
They're a pretty great squad, so you can understand how Villa failed to them at home.
That's so embarrassing, and it goes with another thing I wanted to bring up. Luckily, in the U.S., no one really knows who or what an Aston Villa is. So I saw that the October Goal of the Month vote was canceled because there were no goals. I think, if that happened to someone in the U.S., that could have just been huge, embarrassing news. I feel like
it still was.
Yeah.
I mean, but luckily no one knew about it.
Victoria, my girlfriend, is currently in Windsor, England for work, and she sort of ancillarily knows what's happening with Aston Villa because I bitch about it all the time. And I said, if you see anyone in an Aston Villa jersey while you're in Windsor, she said, oh, you want me to say hi? I said, no, I want you to laugh at them because they're, poor people.
Yeah, deserved at the moment, I'm afraid.
Yeah, God. I mean, I hope no one's wearing their Villa jerseys around.
There's quite a Villa contingent in London. I see them around every now and again, and the last time I saw one, I walked past him and said, up the Villa. He just looked at me like I was mental. So that's the last time I'm going to acknowledge anybody. Unless I'm wearing mine and they come up to me, I'm keeping myself to myself.
That's pretty fantastic. I mean, that's actually a really good question. Is Villa an absolute laughingstock over there in England right now?
Yes and no. I mean, there's still this idea that we're a massive club and the decline has come out of nowhere, where we all know where it's come from because we support the club and we keep up to date with things. But the club's sort of standing of respect to a Premier League ever presence, European, former European, all the history that we all know inside and out. But at the same time, there is this feeling, and it was the same when Newcastle got relegated a few years ago. There's a feeling that there's a sick sort of pleasure in watching a big club sort of struggle and perhaps even go down. And I think we're on that at the moment. People know we're awful, but they don't particularly know why, like we do.
All right, that's fair. It's because it's hard to get. I can read the news, I can read the Twitter, but Twitter is an echo chamber of people being stupid. And the news tries to keep some of the opinion out of it, so it's really hard for me to get a feeling for what people are actually thinking about Villa at any given point. And so it's kind of interesting.
To be honest, with sort of the afterthought at the moment, and I think that's fitting.
Yeah. Because it's, people here are so quick to turn on the big teams that, if the Dallas Cowboys have a bad season, everyone in the United States gets to laugh. And so it's interesting to hear that there's a little bit more of they're bad and we don't know why, but it's not particularly something to, poke fun at.
Mm.
You were making fun of the Cowboys yesterday. They're going to the UK, so they use the hashtag as Cowboys UK, but it just looked like it said Cowboys suck. So they're having a hard time from that.
I know it's not Villa related at all, but I've actually been curious, and since I have someone who's in and around London, do people in London actually give a damn when the NFL comes?
Yeah, big time. It's sort of had a cult following over the years, and since it started coming here a bit more, when on game day, because they have it at Wembley Stadium, which is in a really awkward part of London to get to, and it's so far north of central, it's almost, but you'll sort of have game day. I think you guys call it tailgating.
Yeah.
We have our version of that, which is just sort of quaint street parties with bunting and everything. But one thing that I always found funny, and I don't know if it's just because the sport's still growing here and whatnot, but when you go to a soccer game here, you'll see two shirts, and that's the home team and the away team. Occasionally an England shirt thrown in there. When the NFL comes, you see the whole spread. Everyone's got their shirt on, whether it be Baltimore or Washington or whoever else. And I just find that quite amusing. And does that happen at regular season games where you are? Or is that just something that people are getting over?
I think it's because it's just kind of the spectacle of the NFL, and that everyone who just likes football just wants to see it when it's there, and they're just wearing their shirt so people know they do.
Yeah.
But to your question, it doesn't happen.
To be fair, sometimes if I go to a different baseball stadium or something, I'll just wear a Cubs shirt so people just know where you're from, I guess. But it's kind of different, though, I think.
But to your question, it does. At an NFL game, in Washington or Baltimore or anywhere, you're going to see Washington and Baltimore jerseys, and that's pretty much it. But I think the more apt comparison is, when Manchester United come to play Real Madrid in New York City or something. And then you just get, or smaller teams. Perhaps not Man and Real because they actually have fan bases, but smaller teams.
Sporting Kansas City plays Stoke in Kansas City, and I wear a Villa shirt.
Yeah, exactly. That's where you're going to see, you see tons of different club soccer jerseys around the stadium, because here it's not, it's sort of the equivalent to the NFL there.
Yeah.
So I think it's hilarious to see all these guys on my Twitter timeline that I follow for soccer talking about the NFL. And last night for the Monday night game, he's up tweeting till 4 a.m. because he likes the Colts, and I'm like, why?
Do you have?
But I guess a lot of people will be sitting here in America and say, why do you get up at 6 a.m. to watch soccer? Say why? And it's the same thing. It's funny.
It's just interesting because I think MLS fan culture is so sort of closely linked to that of Europe, not England necessarily, but Europe with ultra groups and even more rivaling ultra groups, and that's not something you really get here.
No, and you don't get that with the NFL. I think the NFL is pretty boring. I think professional football is a lot more boring than college, personally, because of the strategy. People are more reluctant to run. I think more exciting offenses, really, but as to the MLS culture versus England, I think one of the big differences is, and I'm not totally explaining it, is you have these big supporters clubs mostly because you don't have people that live 15 miles away that cheer for a different team. You get back and forth with them all the time, so you need some way to create some sort of atmosphere, and so you just band together. The MLS, I think, is a really cool league, but it loses something from the fact that it's spread out, and there's very few teams that have a regional, close-knit rivalry.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. I mean, the closest, I guess, is the sort of Cascadia region, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And even there, Seattle-Portland is a big rivalry, and that is a 3-hour drive between those two
I mean,
cities.
you had LA, you have the LA clubs, and I guess you're going to have a forced rivalry when they make a new team in New York.
Mm.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just because, Seattle and Portland are one of the big rivalries, and yet it's a 3-hour drive, and, 3 hours.
It's not guys that you're going to be working with the next day in the office, which is, banter purposes, I guess.
Yeah, and, 3 hours from Birmingham could get you to most of the Premier League.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean,
Or
we're lucky being in
some of the
Birmingham.
French league, really. I know. I saw an article a while ago that said if you lived in Southeast England, it'd be cheaper to channel it and go to Lille for a season ticket than any Premier League team. I just thought that was hilarious.
Sounds about right, yeah.
But maybe that's just to do with England ticket prices. But
So I want to make sure that we don't keep you too long, since we appreciate you having you around. Any final thoughts on, what are you looking for from Villa in the next couple of matches, Steve?
How long have you got? I want a couple of goals and I want at least 3 points. But I was sort of saying to somebody the other day, I'm at the point now where do I sort of root against the Villa because there's rumours that the next 2 games, if we lose them, then Lambert is out, which I can't see being too far from the truth. I mean, there's got to be a limit to how many games in a row we've got to lose before somebody loses their job. But then I'm going to the West Ham game on Saturday, so I don't really want to be standing there cheering on against my own team. So at least 3 points, a couple of goals, and just to not be terrible, I think, above all else.
see, that's kind of the thing I thought going into the Spurs matches. A lot of people were like, if Lambert doesn't win here, he's got to get the axe. But just the way that Villa lost, maybe. I mean, Villa they looked decent against Spurs, I think, for a lot of the match. But yeah, if it gets to 8 in a row, it's going to be hard to say you can still have your job, even if you did end him a contract. He hasn't won since he's got the new contract.
No. The fascinating thing to me is, as dire as this has been, and as much as we all sort of hate Villa right now, and I think that's almost universal amongst Villa fans, is this self-loathing hatred. 2 wins in a row, if we could manage that, which would be tough, because West Ham and Southampton are good, but if we could get 2 wins in a row, we would probably be up to around 7th.
Yeah, that's the sort of the folly of the league at the moment, though, isn't it? There's so many bad teams down there that pick up points here and there that are willing to knock you up 5 us. And I mean, you sort of have to weigh it up in your own head over what's more important: getting a few wins and points and climbing up the table a bit towards safety, or do we take a couple of defeats on the chin if it means getting rid of a guy who's implementing a system that isn't working and go and get somebody. I mean, my personal choice is Tony Pulis. And I know that's unpopular, but wherever he's been, he's joined struggling clubs, and every club he's joined, he's turned it around until it's reached a point. And I think he's more intelligent than people give him credit for. I think he plays better football than more people give him credit for. I mean, he had a bad reputation at Stoke, but what he did was functional and it worked for them. And the important thing is that he won't stay too long. So, be it Villa being Villa, this is completely hypothetical, of course, but if we did Tony Pulis, there would always be somebody, but at least they're safe in the knowledge that they know he won't be there forever. He'll be there 18 months tops.
Oh yeah, he's never gotten relegated, and again, it's not the early 1900s. Pulis isn't going to be here for 30 years. It's not permanent. So, I mean, really, you look at the results that he's done with Palace and with Stoke, and I mean, I'd be guilty of saying, or I haven't been a supporter of him in the past, but I think it's hard to say that we don't really need to change at Villa.
And with that tightness in the league, the fact that 2 wins in a row can really just shoot you up the table, maybe it actually wouldn't be the end of the world to lose 2 more. Because at that point, if you get a change in regime and you actually start doing well in what after the Southampton match is a pretty easy stretch, if you can start doing well in there, Villa could be top half by the end of the year again.
Yeah, you think you look at the table and you think, well, we're going to lose two more games at some point this season, so why not it be these two, and then hopefully it can sort of facilitate Lambert's exit.
Yeah, that's a really fascinating way of thinking of it that I hadn't come to yet.
It's a really sad way of thinking about it because obviously, I mean, I want the guy to succeed. He's the manager of my club, so of course I'm going to support him and root for him. But I think, like a lot of people, I've reached the end of my tether with it, and it's not working out. And I don't bear the guy any malice or ill will, but I just don't want him in charge of my team anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of. He already's had the chance, really, and I guess I don't know. Time for a change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just hard to bite the bullet of knowing you're gonna have to buy him out. I think for me, but sorry, Robert.
No, that's exactly my issue. But I've been pretty proud of the fact that 7,500 to hold has not been a reactionary hotbed that instantly joined the Lambert out crowd every time. And it's one of the reasons that I always love listening to you guys on Villa Review is, you can get angry, you can get mad, but you're not reactionary. You take smart stances. And, when I think you see places like you guys at Villa Review or us at 7,500 to hold saying, yeah, let's be done with Lambert, he's finally permeated that idea down to the people who will keep a cool head for as long as is possible.
Hey, I mean, the lynch mob's always going to have a couple spare pitchforks, and there's always room on the bandwagon. So I'm sure they're happy to have us now if we're going to jump on.
Yeah. So, well, we should get this wrapped up. I wanna leave Steve the rest of his day.
Yeah, Steve, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
remember,
we really appreciate it.
You can follow Aston Villa Review. They're at Villa Review on Twitter. I keep saying that. I don't know why, but yeah. So yeah, that's Steve Green. So
at Villa Review on Twitter, and don't forget they're a podcast, and you can subscribe to them pretty much anywhere, and they're an excellent podcast that you should absolutely be listening to.
Oh, you guys.
We heard you say the same thing about our website, but it's been the podcast that Jack and I sort of listen to all the time and go, well, let's be like that.
No, thank you. I really appreciate it. I mean, it's just good to know that we've reached you guys in America and that we're doing something right. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, for some reason, people in America did decide to support Aston Villa, but
weird people.
And so you all have something to look forward to. We're trying to orchestrate some giant crossover podcast with Chris, Steve, Jack, myself, and then we thought we'd bring in a really cool-headed person, maybe try to get Andrew Cieslak in to moderate it all.
Yeah, I'm sure he would be probably the least talkative person on there, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I guess want to thank you for joining us on the whole cast, and of course we'll be back this weekend with match coverage for that Southampton game that we're looking forward to so much, right, Robert?
Oh, you can't believe it, just can't wait to actually have to run Twitter for that.
I mean, Southampton coming into the year, we thought that's not for a while. Why did I think that it was soon?
Is it not this weekend? Do we have another international break coming up?
No, it's
West
Ham
Ham.
international break.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Sorry, but yeah, West Ham this weekend, so we'll be around for that. As always, thanks for joining us on the whole cast for Robert Lintott and this time Steve Green. I've been Jack Grimsey.